Why am I the way that I am? It's a good question. I think everybody should ask themselves questions like that every once in a while, especially since, you know, it's the new year time. It's good to assess goals and whatnot. But to answer that question for myself, there are many fitness influencers and tons of them are focused on lifting weights for strength, lifting weights for muscle growth, or no lifting weights and they only lift their body weight for either muscle growth or strength. But there are very, very few, and I don't know of any that are approaching it the way that I do, that are solely focused, or at least the main goal of theirs is flexibility. So I kind of want to show you what that looks like. What does it look like to solely focus on flexibility, or to use flexibility as the main goal and everything else just helps you get toward that? So I'm gonna go on a walk. I'm gonna go to the park. You can tag along and I will show you what it's like to work solely on flexibility. The goal for today is not necessarily to do anything crazy, but I do want to get to all of my splits. I can already do my front splits cold, which is the one leg in front, one leg in back. I can do that cold without a warm up. But the middle splits, I've kind of slacked off on a little bit. So my goal for today is to see if I can get to my middle splits with a considerable amount of warming up and stretching to assist me up to that point. Now, I'm not going to allow myself to get injured, so I'm not going to be pushing to my limit, but I will be pushing myself pretty hard. But I'm used to doing that, and my body's adapted to that because I've done it for so long. But I don't recommend you go right into pushing your body to the max. But yeah, we're going to want to walk to the park, so come along. All right, we are almost to the park, but I figured I might as well talk to you on the way. One of the bigger mistakes that people make when it comes to flexibility is that they don't focus on volume. So what they'll do is they'll either go to a yoga class once a week or they'll stretch a couple times a week or whatever. And what ends up happening is they'll focus on their hamstrings, then they'll do some hip flexor work, then they'll work on their back a little bit, maybe some shoulders if they're really ambitious, and wow, they'll start to feel loose, flexible. That's great. And temporarily it does, but you're not going to make any real progress because flexibility is actually about volume, like I was saying. It's like a bodybuilder. A bodybuilder doesn't just go to the gym and do one set of bicep curls to grow their bicep. No, what they actually end up doing is they'll do their set of bicep curls at a very high intensity, usually close to failure, and what ends up happening is they'll rest for a little bit and then they'll do even more. So it's the same thing with stretching. You can't just do your one little stretch and then be done with it. You actually have to do your stretch, you have to rest, and then you gotta do it again. And there's a couple different ways you can look at volume. Like, transport yourself back to high school math. What is volume? Volume is a shape, and it is the space inside of that shape. So if you think about the horizontal axis as the amount of reps you're doing, or in this case for flexibility, the amount of seconds you're holding, and the vertical axis would be the amount of times you do that per week, or the amount of sets. So your goal is to fill up the entire shape, the jug of volume, with as much stuff as you can, with as many seconds held. So you want to fill up that horizontal axis, and as many sets as you can do, the vertical axis. But you don't want that jug to overflow. For a bodybuilder, what that would look like is if you're doing 30 sets of bicep curls a week, something crazy. For some people, their biceps might grow, but for a lot of people, their biceps are not going to grow because your body's going to allocate so many resources toward recovery that you just don't grow. Same thing with flexibility, except they don't actually know what the upper limits are because nobody cares except David, apparently. But we do know the lower limit, or at least close to it. If you were to do 10 sets, that is 10 full sets of 30 seconds, that equals 5 minutes a week. And that is the minimum. If you actually do 5 minutes a week, per muscle, they will progress. They know that. So you want to do at least that. All right. It was a 1.5 miles to walk here, so I'm already pretty warm, so you're not going to see my cold flexibility. But as promised, front split, just like so. And there goes my shoes. And other front split, just like so. So a warm-up doesn't have to be very complicated. Most of my warm-up is already done because I got the blood flowing to my legs just by doing that walk there. But the stuff that's missing is the specific stuff. And since I really want to get to my middle splits today, I'm gonna have to work on these inner thighs quite a bit. So I think the first exercise I'm gonna do, really just get the blood flow into the area, is gonna be Cossack switches, I believe is what they're called. So it's a Cossack squat, but instead of coming all the way back up, I'm just gonna switch directly to the other side, but you'll see it in a second. So here we go. Nice low squat. Oh, let me feel that first. And my switches. Yeah, they're feeling tight. A lot of times when you're training flexibility, you can kind of just play around with the movements a little bit to get a little bit of extra movement in the joint you're working on, because I really feel like that helps a little bit. Whew, okay. That already feels a little bit better. Yeah. Now, I'm gonna move directly onto the butterfly, which for many people would be like a main stretch that you would actually focus on, but for me, it's gonna be more of just a warm-up because it doesn't really stretch a lot. But if I elevate my pelvis like this and actually let my body weight push into my ankles, and I can even bounce a little bit to get deeper, I feel that stretch a little bit deeper into my groin, which is where I feel it the most when I do a middle split. So that helps a lot, actually. So I'm just gonna hold this for a little bit. Man, a lot of times when you're holding these stretches, after your first 15 seconds or so, you really start to just sink into that stretch because your stretch reflex kind of starts to relax a little bit. Oh, that feels good. Yeah, see, a lot of times I find myself just naturally doing random stuff like that. Like, I didn't even really notice it, but my hamstrings feel a little bit tight, probably just because of the walk. But I might as well do some elephant walks to focus in on that. And I'm really just focusing mostly on blood flow. I'm not really doing any intense stretches, at least not for me right now, because the goal is just to get as warm as possible so that I can prepare my body for the tortures that lay ahead. Oh, that feels good. Oh yeah. You know what, might as well get some split squats in. It's always good to focus in on that hip flexor every once in a while. A lot of people like to add weight to this stretch, but I honestly don't really need the weight. I'm sure the weight could help me get stronger in my quad if I wanted to, but my focus is actually lengthening through the abs, through the hip flexor, and even through that quad muscle called your rectus femoris, or rec fem for short. As you can see, I'm not really focused too much on how many reps. I'm kind of just going by feeling. Sometimes I like to sit in it a little bit. I just want them both to feel very similar. This is a warm-up, so it doesn't have to be quite so serious as an actual working set would be. Whew. All right, so I'm feeling actually really warm now. I think I'm ready to get straight into the work. So the first exercise that I'm gonna do, it's gonna be an active exercise. It'll be the standing pancake, but I'm gonna add a good morning to it, which means I'm just gonna do a hip hinge like so, and then lift myself back up while I'm in a standing pancake. So I guess I should explain what a pancake is. This is a pancake right here, and you lower yourself down to the ground. That's a pretty good pancake. A standing one is when your pelvis is off of the ground, and then I'm gonna add a good morning into it using my own strength. I'm gonna start higher, and I'm gonna slowly spread my legs a little bit more and more and more. See how far down I can go without compromising form or feeling any pain. So for me, this is not quite so wide. I guess this is pretty wide, but it doesn't matter. Here we go. This is a great stretch. It combines your hamstrings and your adductors all together into this just great exercise. Sink a little deeper. I'm gonna go a little deeper, maybe get 2 more reps in. Oh, okay. Oh, that was pretty close to max effort. I used to be able to go a little bit further, and I could do many more reps than that, but like I said, I've kind of lost focus on the middle splits a little bit, so I'm gonna rest for a little bit, and then I think we'll move on to, you know, we already did a standing pancake. We might as well just go straight to the passive pancake, but we're gonna turn it as far into a straddle as we possibly can. So I'm gonna do that after I rest. You don't want to rest too much in between these stretches, so I'm about ready. I rested for about a minute and a half or so. The main thing with resting is you don't want your body to cool down. You still want to feel quite warm. So here's my wide pancake or my straddle. I'm just gonna lower my chest down and my belly down toward the ground. I'm gonna hold this for around 30 seconds or so. Oh goodness. Oh, about halfway. Four, 3, 2, 1. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I have not done that in a while. Whew. Yeah, something with these pancakes is just, it crosses over really, really well to actually holding a middle split. A lot of people don't realize this, but your middle split isn't just your inner thighs. It's also quite a bit of your hamstrings. Even your hip flexors and quads get involved as well too. You kind of got to think of it this way. Your femur is right here, and it basically plugs right into your pelvis there, like at an angle like this, and it rotates around just like so. So every single muscle that is attached down here and goes somewhere around your hip, it restricts the movement of your hip or generates movement from your hip. But in this case, it restricts that movement. So you kind of want all of it to be flexible. But yeah, let's hit it again. Figured I might as well do a little bit of a different angle for you as well. Got my straddle, sink down, hold. A lot of times people like to tell you to focus on deep breathing. They say it helps you get deeper into the stretch, which maybe psychologically it does. Well, actually, that there are, it's called a physiological sigh when you inhale twice and you exhale. Andrew Huberman talks about it quite a bit, but that quite literally relaxes you and lowers your heart rate, and I would assume that that would help. But what helps me most when I focus on my breathing is it really gets my mind off of the actual stretch. So, hold it for a little bit longer. I wasn't really counting. Oh, hand up. Okay. Oh man, getting out of a stretch like that is always difficult. Ooh, oh my goodness. Oh, all right, well, that's the inner thighs, and the hamstrings pretty cooked. But you know, just for the fun of it, I might as well hold a front split on each side or get close to it. I might actually do slightly off of a front split. Haven't decided yet. Well, let's just see how I feel. I'm gonna go into a front split on both sides, and then we'll start testing my middle splits, and we'll see how close we can get to it. All right. Oh yeah. A little tight. After working on that pancake, sometimes you get a little bit tighter. All right, here we go. Oh. Okay, I'm about halfway through the stretch. Okay. Oh, I actually haven't done a set of front splits like that in a long time. I usually just get into it really quick for a video and then get out of it, and it feels fine when you do it for that short. But when you hold it for a much longer time, it's a little bit more difficult. We'll do the other side and give you a slightly different angle. Oh yeah. Every time I work on my middle splits, the front splits gets a little bit harder after. All right, here we go. Halfway through. Oh, and that's it. Oh, goodness. Oh yeah, that's actually gonna help a lot for when I test the middle split here. I really needed that. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do another set on each side. I think that'll actually assist me quite a bit. I didn't realize how my hip flexors felt today. They feel not necessarily stiff, but it's kind of like, I don't really know how to describe it actually. It's just, you might as well just call it stiffness, I guess. Okie dokie. Slightly different angle. Here we go. Oh, my foot is cramping. There we go. Halfway. Okay, other side. Oh man, my foot started cramping. Okay, here we go. Halfway through. Oh my goodness gracious me, oh my, oh me, oh my. That was much easier the second time, but still very, very difficult. Man, one of these days I'll start working on my over splits maybe. Maybe I'll do that this year. I'm still trying to figure out what my goals for the year are. But I'm at the point where the front split, second set in, it gets much easier. I'm not going to do a third set today, but if I did, I can imagine it would feel much, much easier. So, yeah. All right, well, let's work on that middle split, see where we're at. Actually, I changed my mind. Before I work on my middle split, I'm going to do a little bit more of a pigeon sort of stretch for the glutes first. I feel like it's just a good idea to get everything involved first. So, this is what a pigeon stretch is. I'm gonna be leaning forward because I already stretched my hip flexors. I don't really need to worry about that. I'm mostly focused on the outside of the hip, the glutes here. So, here we go. Halfway through. Oh, that is so much easier than those other stretches that involve all those other muscles. All right, other side, here we go. This side is definitely tighter. And that's the halfway mark. Okay, 15. All right. Since I'm not really focusing on improving my pigeon flexibility, it's already really good. I'm not gonna do more sets, but I think that really is gonna help me with my middle splits, having that warmed up and flexified, if you will, for at least temporarily. So, all right, let's get into it. Middle splits. All right. So when I get into my middle splits, I like to put my hands on the ground. I like to dig my heels in, and I point my toes up to the sky first. It really just helps me externally rotate my hips to avoid any impingement. Here we go. Kind of shim myself down till I feel that good stretch. All right, this is where I'm at right now. I'm gonna hold this for 30 seconds. Here we go. Oh, that's roughly 30 seconds. I'll shift back to my pancake and pull myself out of it. Oh, man. That was crazy. That was really funny, actually. My watch here has a little dial, and if you hold on it like this, it activates Siri. And Siri was listening to me and started a 30-second timer, so now I know that my 30 seconds was 2 seconds faster than an actual 30 seconds, unless the timer started 2 seconds after I started counting in my head. Interesting, good to know. I think we can go a little bit deeper, so let's try again. I'm gonna give you the front angle. I think it's gonna be easier being closer to barefoot. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna hold this for 30 seconds. Here we go. Ah. 10 more seconds. And back. Oh, goodness. Oh. Man, that was intense. Phew. Sometimes it helps to just do any random old movement after you do something so extreme in one range of motion. Oh man, my hips do feel good though. I feel really flexy right now. And you know what, just for fun, just to show that I can, I guess, I'll stick my foot behind my head. This has gotten much easier over time as well. Partly because of that pigeon stretch that I showed you earlier, but honestly, this is a stretch unto itself. Yeah, so I think that concludes the workout today. I did pretty much 2 sets of everything, and if you were to add that up, 2 sets is equal to 1 minute in that stretched position, and counting all the warm-up that I did, probably an extra 30 seconds in there or so, I did roughly 1.5 to 2.5 minutes per muscle group. So that's inner thighs and hamstrings and hip flexors. If I were to do this exact routine twice a week, that would be the minimum requirement that I would need to start gaining flexibility again. So I'm gonna have to do this again later on in the week to really make progress. But if I want to progress further, I'm probably gonna have to do more than that. So I'll definitely be doing more. But anyway, yeah, stay flexy. Man, the 1.5 mile walk to the park always feels better than the 1.5 mile walk back home.